Hi, you're listening to This Is Not Your Practice Life. I'm your host, Macy Renee, and we are going on a journey together, my friends. I'm a certified life and emotional intelligence coach. And if you really want to step into your highest self, there are a few non-negotiables you're going to have to learn, and I am just the person to help you do it. No matter your past, I'm here to help you create a more fulfilling future. So stick around with me. Not only will I teach you how to navigate your brain's daily mind drama, but I'll help you actually understand your mind, your emotions, why you do the things you do, and why others do the things they do. Most importantly, I'll help you build the self-awareness skills to create whatever results you want. It's never too late to change the trajectory of your life. After all, this is not your practice life. Good morning, friends. Welcome back to another episode of This Is Not Your Practice Life podcast. My name is Macy. I'm so excited to have you today, and we are going to talk about when the odds are stacked against you. We're going to talk about what this actually means and the role of self-trust and really leaning in when it feels like nothing is working. So I'm truly excited to bring you this episode, especially if you've been feeling like life is lifing and you feel like you can't get ahead, you feel like the world or the universe is just against you. We're going to dig into that today. So I hope that this is helpful. So let's talk about it. The first thing you have to understand is that while the odds being stacked against you may feel personal, okay? There are times when it really does feel personal. Like, why do I always get hit with the hard things? Why doesn't anybody else struggle like me? Why? Okay, if you've ever been in that cycle of thinking where it feels like everyone else has it easier or everyone else has gotten their big break, but you don't feel like you have gotten that moment, or it feels very far and few in between, this is definitely for you. And this is what I want to say. Everyone, even when it doesn't feel like it, everyone hits moments where it feels like everything is working against them, okay? It could be in relationships, it can be in friendships, it could be at your job, in your career, it could be entrepreneurship, it can feel like that with parenting, it could be literally in anything. Everyone has moments where it feels like everything is working against them, okay? So first we just have to get that in our mind, because even when it doesn't feel true and it feels like it's only happening to you, I want to reiterate that that mindset does not serve you at all. Everyone has different odds that are stacked against them. It's what we do with that. It's how we overcome it. It's the internal work. Are we actually doing any internal work to overcome this? Okay. And here's the thing. There's a difference between real external obstacles versus the internal narrative that we attach to those obstacles. Okay. So like, to give you an example, there have been, I should say, many odds stacked against me just in my upbringing. Okay. For instance, I was a first generation college student. No one in my family ever went to college. A lot of times that means that there are odds stacked against you. You look down a long history of everybody that has come before you and you see that no one has made it to college, right? Now, I'm not saying college is the end all be all. I think there's so many options in the world, and I am truly pro do your passion, find your passion. I mean, I went to school for 5.5 years, got 2 degrees, my bachelor's and my master's degree, and I don't use either of them. I let it all go to be an entrepreneur, to be on this podcast, to be coaching women. So, I'm so pro finding what you love and doing it. It really has nothing to do about, I went to college or anything like that. However, when you look at the statistics of what I quote, and I'm quoting, should have done or where I should be, the odds were definitely stacked against me because nobody in my family had ever modeled going to college or having a college level education. The same is true with even my mom being a teen mom. She got pregnant with me at 15. She had me at 16. If you look statistically, a lot of times, if we fall into our statistical patterns and what has been, kind of, again, the odds stacked against us, I would have been a teen mom. I am not a mom yet. I'm 33, I'll be 34. So I'm quite the opposite, right? I'm probably going to be like the old mom to a lot of people. And I've actually been working so hard on my beliefs around that, of feeling like, oh, I'm already, close to my mid 30s. It might be too late. Like all of the motherhood stuff, that has been my biggest work probably the last year and a half, and will continue to be. Another odd stacked against me is that I didn't grow up with money. I grew up, and I've shared this if you've been a longtime podcast listener, I grew up with my grandparents. My grandma actually was the breadwinner by maybe a couple $1,000s extra. She made, I think she said usually like in the low 30s. And so did my papa, right? My mom was a teen mom, so she was still trying to finish school. And then when she was 18, I think she moved out. And the odds were very much stacked against me in that way too. My grandma, I remember her saying like she applied for food stamps and she got denied because together her and my papa made $8 too much. And growing up, I've shared this as well. I didn't even know it was weird that we shared bathwater to save money until I was in high school. I had no idea that not every single family did that. So in many ways, when I became an entrepreneur, especially, a lot of what I had to overcome were my money beliefs, because I was raised in a family where I would definitely call them frugal, and a lot of scarcity and a lot of fear around money, and a lot of beliefs that if you had money, you were snobby, you were not a good person. That money was the root of all evil. Money doesn't grow on trees. Wastefulness, not, do you need that or do you want that? You should only buy the things you need, not really the things that you want. And so there was a lot of narratives around money that I have had to outgrow as an entrepreneur to make it as an entrepreneur. But those are additional odds that were stacked against me. If I would have fallen into statistics there, I would be working, maybe a traditional job for not a lot of pay. And actually, when I was an OT, I was in that pattern. I was making just as much as my grandparents, except that the world has changed a lot, in the 30-something years where they were raising me, or 20-something years, when they were raising me as a baby. Things have changed. Things are more expensive. And so making, 35 grand as an OT just was not cutting it. And it was really easy to get in the pattern of like, oh, this is just how life is. This is just what I can expect. I went to school, I racked up debt. This is, I need to take responsibility for this. I need to just stay in this, even though it wasn't what I wanted to do. And I really had to work through, again, those odds that made it seem like, big things were stacked against me. So we do have real external obstacles. Sometimes those obstacles can be, money. There can be a lot of other obstacles. It could be, just hardships and things like that have the opportunity to get you down or try to keep you down. But what's more important are the internal narratives that you attach to them. Okay. So I didn't allow how I was raised to keep me in that money mentality. I didn't allow what I witnessed even as a child, being raised by a teen mom, to put me in that same pattern. So really, like, anytime there has been an obstacle, there has also been an invitation. And that's the next thing that I want to talk about. There is a hidden invitation in all of these moments to rise to a higher version of ourselves, get creative, and or redefine what's actually possible. So we have to think about that. Every single time I come up against an obstacle, I remember one of the most important emotional intelligence skills, which is our flexibility and our problem solving. Okay. And in order to have really good flexibility and problem solving, we also have to be able to tolerate stress, because a lot of times our brain does not like whenever something doesn't feel easy and autopilot. And that's where I think a lot of people stay in cycles or they shut down, is they receive the invitation and it just feels too hard. And when it feels too hard and you don't have the emotional intelligence skills, it's really easy to be in the woe is me victim mentality of everybody else has it easier, I don't. Everybody else gets their big break, I haven't. Everybody else's parents support them, mine don't. Everybody else has money, I don't, right? And you've probably heard people talk like that. And if you are working on yourself, you know that that can be a very exhausting energy to be around, because when you have a growth mindset, it's very much like, yes, you may have the sulking, but it's very short lived, and then it's about problem solving and getting yourself up and holding yourself accountable and not staying stuck in the cycle of like really believing all of the odds being stacked against you are a forever thing. They are absolutely something you can work through. So here is something that's really important about self-trust and, your identity when it feels like nothing's working. When circumstances are hard, who you decide to be matters more than what is happening in your life. So I'm going to say that again. When circumstances are hard, who you decide to be in those moments matters more than what's actually happening, okay? Who you decide to be is your self-concept. And I've done an episode on this. So if you go back a few weeks back, you'll hear an episode on self-concept. I actually did a program for the very first time on this year. And if I ever run it again, I don't know, because it was quite the adventure of just a lot of work on my end, more than I anticipated. So I'm not really sure if I'll do it again. But if you ever see an email, again, be on my email list. If you ever see an email again, in case I run it, I can't tell you how important that program is in setting the tone for the who, because it really does come down to who you decide to be in those really, really tough moments. A lot of times clients ask me, well, how do I do all these things? How do I do this? How do I do that? How do I change this? How do I change that? And it always starts with who you want to be in those moments. When you get really, really clear on who you desire to be, even when that doesn't feel like who you are yet, then you can actually have clarity around what skills you need to implement and learn for you to become that version of yourself. Okay, so you have to anchor into your self-concept when you feel like you're failing, when you feel like you're behind, when you feel like you're unsupported. You have to remember who you desire to be and where you're headed, and then you have to show up as that version of yourself before you feel ready, okay? And the last thing that I'm going to say is the choice to see yourself as the kind of person who keeps going even at this place, this really hard maybe place where you feel like, oh, everything is stacked against me. That like seeing yourself as the person who keeps going is one of the most important parts, okay? I'm even having to do that right now in the transition of us getting ready to move our life from Vegas to back to Kentucky where we're from. Okay, so I'm tired. Like there's a really big mind drama within my inner child, my inner teen that I kind of tell my clients about, that is like pouting because she just wants to throw her hands up in the air in so many ways and just be done. And like, I don't know, run away on like an empty piece of land, have a million chickens and just check out mentally. Okay. But again, it's so important. And it's not even that a lot of odds are stacked against me right now, but there are challenges. There are, things that require problem solving. And it's really easy for the brain to want to shut down when we're thinking like, how am I going to get through this? Oh, I'm so tired. And we're, focusing on the odds or the struggle as opposed to who do I want to be daily? I want to be a problem solver. I want to be able to be flexible. I want to be able to manage my stress. I want to be able to feel really good even whenever things feel really hard. I want to be able to get through them. And I want to get through them well. And so I have to think about that version of me when I just want to roll over and be in a field with a bunch of little chickens, which this is a funny vision, by the way, because while I love like watching little chicks or little ducklings or people that post a bunch of reels on Instagram of like their farm life and they're, cutting flowers and all of the things. I have to tell you, I've never picked up a farm animal. I would probably lose my mind. And so it's kind of this funny thing where it looks so lovely and appealing. And I'm like, yes, that's what I want whenever I'm stressed. But if you put me in that real life situation, I can't say that you would not witness me like totally screaming or squealing or being a little bit terrified, which sounds ridiculous, but I should throw that truth bomb in there. So anyways, you guys, I really want you to think about this when your brain goes into that victim mentality of woe is me. And when it goes into the compare and despair, meaning that you stack your life against someone else's and you dismiss in that process, like a lot of times you dismiss your own journey, you dismiss theirs as well. We assume that people have it easy. And a lot of times we don't even know what's going on in their life. Social media is oftentimes a highlight reel. Very few people are giving the truth bombs and sharing the truth of what's happening. So, whether you're judging someone's life based on social media or what they're willing to share with you, you have to be very careful about that. Everyone has certain odds that are stacked against them. And again, that most important thing is, you have to recognize the difference between those real external obstacles, those real things that are getting in your way versus your internal narrative of what you're attaching to those obstacles. Because obstacles are, yes, a challenge, and yes, frustrating, and yes, a total bummer. But everything is figure outable when you're willing to use your skill set in problem solving, stress management, and flexibility. Okay, those are huge EQ skills. So if you need help with this, if you really struggle in feeling like, the woe is me mentality or everybody else has it great and you can't figure out why you're stuck, I highly encourage you to reach out. You can schedule a free 60-minute consult. You get in touch with me on social media. Anything that you need to do, and we will, talk about ways to actually move you forward. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I will be back. If you see me being a little bit MIA on the podcast, just remember the email list is pretty consistent. That is where you're going to get the most up-to-date news, even when I am a little bit MIA. If I'm MIA on the podcast, it's probably because of the huge life transition happening between the move across country, getting settled, getting grounded, and really coming to my podcast with the energy I want you guys to receive. Not a burnt out energy, not a tired, stressed out energy, but a very like servant leadership, ready to give, ready to keep going kind of energy. Okay. So sign up for the email list if you're not already on it. And other than that, I will see you very soon. Bye. Hey there. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of This Is Not Your Practice Life podcast. If you'd like to connect on social media, you can find me on both Instagram and Facebook at Macy Renee Coaching. And if you want to stay up to date on all of my offers, announcements, and inspirational emails, you can join my email list at macyrenee.com. In addition, if there's a way that I can further support you in your coaching journey, you can schedule a free 60-minute consult at macyrenee.com anytime you want so we can discuss the best options for you. I look forward to seeing you next week, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye.